This story is based on a college tourist who was almost killed. The gob is a mythical creature that was known to attack kids and smaller people who traveled alone in the night on this particular island. Although some did believe, most people considered this a scary story for children, and would ignore the warnings of people who were strong believers, which would cause tourists to take it lightly. One day a college student who was on vacation with his girlfriend had a little too much to drink and starting arguing with his partner. After an hour of bickering and shouting, Kyle's girlfriend Mindy would tell him, either you leave or I'm leaving. And even though Kyle was completely drunk, he began to think since he was in a hotel, if he just walked around a bit he could find another girl. He came to the conclusion that he would just leave and come back in a few hours. Mindy tells him, don't come back until you sober down. Kyle would walk down to the lobby and to his surprise it was almost completely empty. But Kyle would not be deterred and he decides he'll just walk to the nearest club and find someone there. Kyle walks up to the clerk and tells her, I need to go to a club. She would respond and say, no Ubers/taxis are available right now. It was almost 3 a.m. at the time. Kyle would then say, it's fine, I'll just walk. Can you tell me the name of one that's still hype around this time? The clerk then says, I don't think walking is a good idea, there are a lot of criminals out. Kyle would respond and say, yeah right, and the gob is out there to The clerk, who was annoyed with his comment, told him again that she didn't think it was a good idea. But Kyle insisted and began to get aggressive with her. After this display of behavior, she tells Kyle the name and directions to get to the best all-night club. In reality, she was setting him up to be robbed. Kyle then laughed and in a drunk, slow voice said, thanks. After about a 10-minute walk, Kyle started to notice that the further he went, the darker it got. The path he was on took him to an area where there was barely any lights, which gave him a spooky feeling. Kyle slowly started to think that he was too drunk and this was a bad idea and maybe he should just turn around. But as soon as he stopped walking, he would hear footsteps coming from all different directions. Almost like ninjas, 7 men approach him with bats and knives and tell him to give up all his belongings. Kyle refused and thought to himself, they won't actually hurt me, I'm a tourist. One of the men would tell Kyle he has 10 seconds to give everything up or else. Kyle refused again and tried to run away. The men would then go on to beat Kyle half to death. And on top of that, they stabbed him 3 times before taking his belongings. $300, a pair of Jordans and a gold chain. Luckily Kyle survived this altercation and even made it back